One of the things that struck me is that, you said that this phenomenon of mass formation is really, basically become a much larger and larger phenomenon recently. What strikes me is that none of what you described around Corona could have happened without the strong participation of legacy or corporate or establishment media and also social media, basically pushing this kind of messaging out. And of course, we know, for example, in Nazi Germany, they were experts at this kind of propaganda, right? The will to power, the film, the imagery, and so forth. So I wanted you to comment on this a little bit. It seems like the technology is actually an important element here.
Technology is an important element, of course. Mass formation can emerge without technology or without mass media, but it will never last very long. It typically ceases to exist after a certain while. It's only when the same narrative is repeated time and time again through mass media, is recirculated time and time again through mass media, that the mass formation can last so long that it is capable of ceasing, of taking control over society. So that it's very well known, has been described from the 19th century onwards. And many people are aware of the fact that through the mass media and through technological machinery and devices, they have the capacity and to like Edward Bernays, I don't know if you know him, the guy who is considered to be the father of public relations, a nephew of Sigmund Freud, but of a completely different nature, I think. Sigmund Freud was someone with a strong ethical awareness, and Bernays tried to have an ethical awareness, but I don't think he succeeded very well in doing so and being very ethical. But someone like Bernays describes already that the masses are extremely dangerous, that they are irrational and self-destructive. Okay, that's right, I think. But then he decides that, or he concludes that that's exactly why we should develop all kinds of strategies to control them and to manipulate them. And he also refers to the fact that exactly the technological developments allow us to do so. And his entire public relations discourse is actually a demonstration or a description of all the techniques and strategies you can use to manipulate and control the masses. And that's the problem, of course. And initially, I think that propaganda and public relations and all kinds of media started from the idea that they had to control the masses just to make sure that society doesn't fall prey to the destructiveness of the masses. But in the end, they used the destructiveness of the masses to seize control over the state system, and they became as destructive as the masses themselves. So that's what Hannah Arendt calls, in the end, there was like a diabolic pact between the masses and the elite, which led to the emergence of the totalitarian state machinery. So there are other ways to make sure that a society doesn't fall prey to the aggression and the irrationality and the destructiveness of the masses. And that is exactly the opposite of what propaganda is and misinformation and manipulation is. It is just, we have to reappreciate the value of what the ancient Greeks, the ancient Jews, the ancient Japanese culture called truth speech. That's exactly, if you want to avoid that that masses emerge and that the masses become highly destructive and irrational and so on, then the first thing you have to make sure of is that people reconnect with their environment. And that means we have to move on to a society with much more local production of all kinds of the things we need to survive. That's one thing. We have to cultivate and to promote a truthful speech in society. We have to make sure that these conditions of social isolation, lack of meaning making, free-floating anxiety, frustration, aggression are avoided. That are the things we can do to truly solve the problem of mass formation, much more than believing that the solution would be that the minor elite would control and manipulate the masses in an efficient way, because this minor elite is in the grip of mass hypnosis itself and will become exactly as self-destructive and as irrational as the masses tend to become. So that's the big problem, of course.
We live in an era of censorship and disinformation, and it can be really hard to know what's true and what's false in this information climate. To get honest information and insights you can trust, join us on Epoch TV. You can sign up for your 14-day free trial at ept.ms/freetrialjan. That's ept.ms/freetrialjan. Well, and that's something actually very interesting that you say in the book, because of course, you know, for this, I think you said 10 to 30% that absolutely, you know, doesn't accept the dominant narrative, for example, around Corona or whatever. You know, many people I've heard, you know, imagine that there is some sort of grand conspiracy, basically, you know, to control the world, or there's different variations of this, right? And of course, and indeed, there are all sorts of people that are looking to take advantage of the situations and groups and large multinational corporations and possibly large think tanks. Anyhow, something that you say struck me really strongly. You said, the ultimate master is the ideology, not the elites, right? And you were just talking about this earlier. That's fascinating.
One of the problems with an extreme conspiracy thinking is that it seems to believe that if you would destroy the elite, the evil elite, then the problem would be solved. That would definitely not be the case. First and for all, I doubt whether the elite is much more evil than the population. I think the population always also... It's as Solzhenitsyn also said that. He said, the dividing line between good and evil runs through every heart, he said. It doesn't run in between people, the one group being evil and the other group being good. No, not at all. Everybody knows there is evil and good in everyone's heart. And that's the first problem. It's with this extreme conspiracy thinking that it situates all the evil, it localizes all the evil in one small group, suggesting that the destruction of this group would be sufficient to solve the problem. That's not true at all. As long as the society is in the grip of this mechanistic, rationalistic thinking, it will recreate the same elite time and time again. The only profound solution to the problem is that there is a sufficient number of people who becomes aware of the relativity of mechanistic rationalist thinking and who moves on to a different way of knowing the world, as I just explained. That's the only true solution. And in that case, if we can start to think in a different way, we will see that a new elite is formed and that the elite that exists now will cease to exist in a spontaneous way. And that's the true solution to the things. And the only thing we have to do, I think, to do so, is just in the years to come, which might be very difficult years, for everyone, for the people who do not go along with the mainstream, and also for the people who do go along with the mainstream narrative. It might become difficult for everyone. And we will never be able to predict what exactly might happen in the years to come. Never. Because it's just not ours to predict such things. The society is a complex dynamical system, and the characteristic of such systems is just that even if you have the mathematical formula in your hand that describes the behavior, you can never predict their behavior. That's one of the characteristics. So we should not lose too much energy, I think, in trying to predict what will happen, what exactly will happen. What we should do instead, I think, we should focus, we should invest our energy just in trying to live up, as I said before, to the principles of humanity, trying to rediscover them, trying to speak out, because I think the first and most important principle of a human being is that it should try to articulate the words that seem sincere to it,